Well, my class is very excited that I'm recording today on 9-3. I don't think so. Changing rectangular coordinates to polar coordinates. Right now, these are rectangular coordinates. So in your journal right now, label this as x, label this as y. This is your x value, this is your y value. We're going to start with something easy and work our way to something more difficult. We're going to be changing our x and our y to r and theta. So what we're going to do at the very end, we are actually going to end up with two answers. One answer we are going to make in degrees, where theta is going to be in degrees. The other is going to be where theta is going to be in radians. So we're going to have two answers that we're going to have for problem number 5. Okay? So the first thing I want you guys to do is I want you guys to write down that r will always equal the square root of whatever x is squared plus whatever y is squared. That's the first thing. So if you ever want to find r, just simply plug in your x value, square it. Plug in your y value and square it, and then take the square root. This comes from the formula. X squared plus y squared equals r squared. This right here is the formula that you can use. Solve for r.
R will be the square root of 8.
For this problem, yes. So right here we have
2 square root of 2.
That will be the simplified version. For those of you watching the video, we're going to show you how that becomes the simplified version without just writing 2 radical 2 and you going, why the heck are you writing 2 radical 2? So we're going to take 2, we're going to square it. We're going to take 2, we're going to square it. We're going to get 4 plus 4, which equals radical 8. Now this radical can be simplified. And if you're taking Precalculus, you probably know how to simplify radicals. But just in case you don't, you got to break it down and realize that square roots look for groups of 2. I have a pair of 2. That becomes 2 radical 2, which is our exact answer for r. If you were just to type in the square root of 8 in the graphing calculator, you get an approximate value of about a 2.8 if you just typed it in. So, for example, clear that out. I typed in the square root of 8, you get that 2.8. That's the approximate value. That's not the exact value. You'll notice that 2 radical 2 is the same as the square root of 8. They mean the same thing. If you're wondering why that's the case and that my first explanation did not make any sense, hopefully you can see the square root of 4 times the square root of 2 would equal the square root of 8. But what does the square root of 4 actually equal to? 2. So there's 2 radical 2.
Oh.
That's another way of thinking about it. So right now, everybody, for r, put 2 radical 2 and 2 radical 2. Now all we got to do is find theta in degrees and theta in radians, and we're going to be done with this particular problem.
Oh.
By the way, theta will equal what's called the inverse of tangent when you take your y value and divide it by your x value. Now, r's are pretty easy. It's just a 2 and a 2. It's the same as saying the inverse of the number 1. And when you type that in the graphing calculator, if it's in degree mode, and you type it in, you will get 45 degrees. So I'll just type that in right now, make sure my mode is in degrees. There we go. There's degree mode. Second tangent, 2 divided by 2, which is 1. And you get 45. Now what if it was in radian mode? Look what happens. If I go and I change this to radian mode, and I say the inverse of tangent, and do the same thing, you're going to get this answer. Now that's in radian mode. By the way, watch this. Pi divided by 4 by the way, if you guys look at your little chart that we made many weeks ago, what is pi over 4 equivalent to in degree mode? 45 degrees. So when you did this in radian mode, it gave you 0.785, which is the approximate value of pi over 4. Hopefully you realize what I'm telling you right now is that in theta in degrees is 45 degrees, but in radian mode it is pi over 4. And that right there is your final answer in polar form. And these are your polar coordinates. That's r, that's theta, in degrees and in radians. All right, what we're going to do right now is we're going to look at problem number 6. But before we begin problem number 6, what I need everybody to do right now is to make an x-axis and a y-axis. Label this quadrant 1, 2, 3, 4. For quadrant 1, call it x, comma, y. They're all positive. Quadrant 2, you're going to have a negative x value and a positive y value. Quadrant 3, where all teenagers live, you have a negative x and negative y. It's negative in the teenage world. All right, now we have positive x.
That's pretty good.
And negative y.
So I guess you could say you live in quadrant 1.
Oh, I definitely live in quadrant 1. If you're a teacher, you better live in quadrant 1 because you got to pull everybody to quadrant 1 because there's lots of quadrants. By the way, could you tell me in question for problem number 6, what is our ordered pair?
2, negative 3.
Oh.
I'll be fine.
2, negative 3. That's your x. That's your y. Ooh, let's just use this chart right here. Go over 2 units and down 1, 2, 3, and put a point right there. And let's call that point 2, comma, negative 3. Now, what we're going to do, we're going to make a circle. Oh, touch that point right there. Because we're going to take this ordered pair, which is in rectangular form, and we're going to change it to polar form. We're going to change it to r, comma, theta, right for your very eyes. Now, the next thing that I'm going to do right now, I'm going to change colors right here. From the center of the circle to the point right there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw r. That distance is going to be the value of r. Just remember, r is going to be square root, whatever x squared plus y squared is. So we're going to take the square root of x squared plus y squared. 2 and a negative 3. So you plug in 2 and a negative 3. Got a 4. Got a 9. You get radical 13. Everybody, that is the distance from here to right there. Your r value is the square root of 13. Whether it's in radians or whether it's in degrees, that square root of 13 is the distance of r from the center. Now, everybody, hopefully you can see we are in quadrant 4, where x is positive but y is negative. So our final answer in degrees. Before you guys work this out, I want you guys to understand that your final answer for theta, okay? Theta is going to be less than, all right, 2 pi, but greater than or equal to 0, which means theta is going to be less than 360 degrees or greater than or equal to 0 degrees. So in quadrant number 4, if we're in quadrant 4, theta has to be what? between 360 and what? That's right. So we know our final answer for theta, if we're in quadrant 4, that's where we're lying, is going to be between 360 and 270. So we're going to use our little formula, right? Theta always equals what? The inverse of tangent if you take your y value and divide it by your x value. In this particular case, what was our y value? -3. What was our x value? 2. So right now, I'm going to change my mode right now to degrees so we can get our first answer in degree mode. Okay? I'm going to go second tangent -3 divided by 2. I'm going to press enter, and I get this -56. Wait a second. -56.3. Interesting. Let's go back. That means from here to here, everybody. From here to here, theta was approximately equal to what? -56.3 degrees. But that is not between what? That's not between 0 and 360. So what do I have to do to get the positive version of the answer? Add what? Add 360. So go here and just take this answer and add 360, which gives you 303.7. So understand, these are the exact same thing. One just happens to be this one. This answer happens to be between what? 0 and 360. So right here, 303.7 degrees. Now, some of you might be wondering, great, I understand how I got theta in degrees, but how do I change that to radians? Everybody, this is what you need to put into your journal. Anytime theta is in degrees and we want to change it to radians, just take whatever degrees that you have and multiply it by pi over 180, and that will give you your answer for radians. So all I'm going to do is take this answer and multiply it by pi divided by 180, and that will give me my approximate value for radians. What is my approximate value for radians? 5.3. So my answer, 5.3. Go to your calculator. You saw that I took the degrees. This right here, this answer was in degrees. I multiplied it by pi over 180 and got 5.3. So right now I'm going to go, once again, anytime you want to go from degrees to radians, this is what you need to multiply your degrees by to get to your answer in radians. 5.3 radians is approximately equal to 303.7 degrees in this answer. So, your final answer in conclusion. This is your R value, this is your theta in degrees, this is your R value, this is your theta in radians. You need to know which quadrant, right? Which quadrant you're going to end up in. Okay? If you're in quadrant 2 or quadrant 3, you need to make sure your answer is in quadrant 2 or quadrant 3. Good luck.